Yes, Boomer Bobby, no sound. 3, 2, 1. Alright, guys. First the delay, then no sound yet again. Wake up, Bobby. Here we go. Guys, I'm a bit under the weather. I would say it must be Kurats, number 2, but it is monkeypox season, so therefore it has to be monkeypox after all. I don't know what it is quite yet. I had a fever, I have a headache, I have bone ache, it's quite tremendous, but I don't have a runny nose. I don't have a sore throat necessarily either, but I'm coughing a bit. So, if we're experiencing low energy, Bobby, today, this is why. Anyways, now the sound is back. Fantastic. Excusez-moi, apologies. Today we have Jon Venus here. I'm going to connect with him in a minute. First, let me set everything up here. Let me see that everything is up and running. The sound is on. That is good. Fantastic. How's everybody doing? I'm sick because I'm not vegan. Yeah, probably, man. I need more veggies. Bobby, what is the music of this intro? You can just look it up on YouTube. It's called Bobby's Perspective intro music. I actually uploaded it or re-uploaded it. So if people want to find it, this is how they can. Just Bobby's Perspective intro music. Okay, anyways, the sound is running. All good, all good, all good. Yes. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So, let me get Jon onto the show. Yeah, I need a jab. I see it there for sure, man. It was my woman's mother that came from Senegal. She just landed 3 days ago, and this is when I got sick. And she had a fever too, so I have to assume that she brought something over here. Must be a new strain. Maybe you should become LGBTQ vegan and take the jab. That should solve all my issues. What am I waiting for? Okay, anyways, we have good sound, fantastic. Now let me give Jon a call. We already have plenty of people tuned in. Thank you very much. Guys, if you have any questions for Jon, super chats and Streamlabs donations, it is pinned within the chat, just up there, the blue little box. And like this, I will be able to see your questions and answer them accordingly and redirect them to Jon as well. So if you want them answered, this is the way to go. Yeah, I see my mic is peaking a bit too much, right? Let me adjust that real quick. The gain is a bit too high. Mic check, mic check. This should be better now. Yeah, should be better. Okay. Hey Bobby, I miss your old mic from 2019. Yeah, I remember that thing. The bushy one, eh? Okay. Anyways, let me give Jon a call. Let us get the show on the road. Here we go. Monkeypox. Monkeypox. My brain is gonna explode. I'm getting too old for YouTube. Here we go. Fantastic. Jon is connected.
Monkeypox.
You just have to turn the sound off, Jon.
Too old for YouTube.
We have an
There you
echo. Okay. Say something.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, that works. Fantastic. Let me just adjust the window size. Like so. Okay. Here we go. Fantastic. Okay, everything's set up. Finally, Jon. We can hear you. We can see you. Your last video upload on YouTube was on the 28th of September 2021. Since then, we haven't heard much from you. I've seen you being active on Instagram during the so-called pandemic, and you took a stance against forced jabs, which I personally respect a lot. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bobby. It's been a while since we hanged out live, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, the first question right away, after such a long abstinence from YouTube, where have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's almost been 8 months since I uploaded, and before that, I only had a couple of uploads for yeah, I don't know. It's been pretty much over a year that I haven't really done much since my daughter's birth. Essentially, I haven't really done much on YouTube.
Congratulations on that.
I have done a lot more on Instagram. So essentially, what I've been doing a lot more is focusing on being present with the kids, taking care of our health, just doing a lot of reading into a lot of topics related to the stuff that is going on around the world. To catch up on a lot of things that I feel like I always wanted to research before, but felt like I didn't have a time. And what better time to do so when nobody wants to watch my videos since I'm not vegan anymore. So I took advantage of the situation and took a break from talking about nutrition and these things, and started talking about the world events, and lost even more followers on Instagram, and it's been going really well. I think at this point I'm on minus 100,000 followers since quitting veganism. So
wow, minus 100,000,
and then on YouTube another 50,000 or something.
Wow, so 100,000 on Instagram alone.
100,000 on Instagram alone since the mid 2020. Yeah.
Wow, that is wild. And that was due to you talking out about the pandemic, or the veganism, or a combination of both?
I'd say half and half. Yeah.
Right.
So half because of veganism and half because of the pandemic. Yeah.
It's quite interesting how those movements go hand in hand, wouldn't you say? For me, it was quite interesting after waking up from veganism to see that all of those isms are deeply intertwined. So if you're a vegan, you tend to be more liberal. Not all, but most of them. And then you tend to be more, if you're a female, into feminism, into LGBTQism, etc., etc. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see that in this day and age, of course, the leftist stance would be more pro-jab, for example. And if you take a stance against that, then obviously you see a huge backlash.
Yeah, and you're automatically far right.
Yeah, you're Nazi automatically.
Yeah.
Of course, especially
Yeah,
you. I think you have a
was-
Brazilian background and Norwegian, that was, right?
Yeah, half Brazilian, half Norwegian.
Yeah, so
exactly.
that makes you super racist, of course. Yeah.
Exactly, man. Yeah, I've been called a white supremacist for the first time ever. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that I wouldn't say it's just with veganism. I think just in general, like a lot of people are buying into the agendas and stuff. But I was expecting more people to be more open to these things, because a lot of vegans talk about the corruption in big pharma and these things, right? So I was expecting a little bit more. I have vegan friends who are into this whole thing, and they know what's going on, but the vast majority of them, yeah, for sure, they're drinking the Kool-Aid for sure.
Yeah, you would expect that, right? But ultimately, when I found out about veganism, and I would be interested to hear if you see it the same way. At first, it was like Pandora's box. It was this secret movement, and you thought you're opposing the system, right? It is something that you're fighting actively against, because the system, the establishment, is pro-meat, obviously, is pro-animal agriculture, and therefore you're fighting the man, right? And this is why veganism seemed so anti-establishment. But now, dropping out of it, you realize, actually, not quite. It's the opposite. You're totally part of the establishment. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I share a very similar experience for sure. Now that I'm not vegan anymore, it's like I never see any ads for, like, I don't know, like eating grass-fed beef or whatever. Like, I've never seen that before. So. Yeah, it's a completely different perspective, and it's interesting to have been so deeply involved in veganism and having that as a main kind of foundation for my identity for so many years, and then coming out of that really gives you hopefully a much more balanced perspective on things. So yeah, it's definitely not as anti-establishment as I was hoping, although there is a small chance that Bill Gates and Kim Kardashian are anti-establishment. I'm not sure.
Right, yeah. There was this meme that I just posted. If they are promoting your diet, Kim Kardashian and Bill Gates, Yeah, then you know. Then you're on the right side of history. Yeah, so talking about that perspective shift about veganism, what is your stance now on veganism? I think this is the first time that I actually heard you saying that you're an ex-vegan now, like this vocally and this concrete. What is your stance now? You're officially an ex-vegan. Do you still dabble in plant foods? Do you want to return to the plant-based diet? Or what is your stance on veganism right now?
Hmm. Yeah, I think maybe we didn't do a live. Did we not do a live stream when I was like ex-vegan the first time around? Maybe not. I don't know.
I think the
But
last live stream we did was with Tristan, so it was us three. And as far as I know, I really don't know. Correct
I
me if I'm
wasn't.
wrong.
Yeah, I
I
was
think
still
you
vegan at that
went
point.
back to veganism again.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
believe.
essentially, I did. I left the vegan lifestyle for I'd say 5 months, and then I wanted to give it another shot just to make sure that I wasn't fooling myself or experience some sort of nocebo effect or whatever. And so I gave it another shot again, full commitment, and then my health issues returned after a few months. So that lasted 5, 6 months, and then that gave me the final, like, yeah, the perspective and the experience that I needed to be very confident in my choice of leaving it for good. So when I went back to it, I didn't call myself vegan or whatever. I was just saying that I was eating a plant-based diet to try to make it work and stuff. And it didn't work at all. So I got my joint pains came back harder than ever. And that was it. That was like, boom, no more, no more plant-based diets, after that. So right now, what I'm doing and my views on veganism, veganism for me was always about the truth that I believed, which was that it could be optimal for health, right? Because without that, it doesn't, like, all the moral and ethical arguments don't really make any sense. If you can't be optimally healthy, it doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
I always assumed and believed that it was possible to be optimally healthy on a vegan diet, and also that everyone else could also be optimally healthy. And so when that fell away, I don't see a reason for veganism at all. In that sense, like, if it works for you, that's fine. I believe you should do whatever you want. But for me, I don't see a reason for going back to a vegan lifestyle because it just doesn't make any sense, and I don't feel good on it. The moral arguments, if you look deeply, a lot of them don't really hold ground either. So yeah, I'm not trying to go back into being vegan, and hopefully, the issues that I've experienced while being vegan never come back, and I don't need to experience any more issues. But at this point, I feel like I'm physically healthier than ever as well. So that's been a really good thing. So yeah, not trying to go back to being vegan. That's for sure.
Thank God for that. So first and foremost, you mentioned a lot of health issues there, joint pain in specific. We can talk about that in a second. But one thing I want to repeat here is that health pillar that you just mentioned. You said when you notice that veganism doesn't keep you ultimately healthy and is not ultimately the healthiest diet for everybody, that's when it started crumbling. And yes, this is important, vegans. Because veganism is advertised as something that is a trifecta, ultimately. It is great for health, great for the environment, and great for animals. So then when you say I have health issues, they will tell you, yeah, well, it's about the animals after all. No. That wasn't the selling point. The selling point was that exact trifecta. And it must make sense on all levels. It must make sense health-wise, because otherwise it's ultimately not the truth. So if you as a human cannot thrive on a specific diet, it is not the truth. And this is when the whole fundament just crumbles. To stick with veganism, then you must delude yourself and tell yourself, well, I don't care about the truth. I simply do not care. I'm going to do it for a perceived ethical, moral high ground. Yeah. Anyways, about the health issues that you mentioned. So it was the joint pain predominantly. Was there anything else? Because every time we talked, you seemed fine. Thinking back 3 years now, I think that was the first time that we talked to each other 3 years ago, roughly. And you said that you're feeling good on the vegan diet. You were a proponent of that vegan diet. Which were the health issues aside from the joint issues?
Yeah, so up until, it was after we talked. So it was
Mhm.
right before, I'd say maybe 10, 12 months before I officially quit was when I started experiencing health issues. So I went quite a long, many years without any issues at all. And so, apart from cramping, like I started getting cramps, more and more, I'd say maybe like 4 or 5 years into it. But it was a cramping that was very extreme. So, at one point I was lifting weights and I always lift to failure. I always go as heavy as I can and try my best to do maximum effort. And after the workouts, if I would bend my elbow up like this, it would like my forearms would cramp a
Mm.
lot and my biceps as well. And so it was really debilitating because, I was going to grab something and it would cramp up really badly. And I just had to like have this reflex of stretching out my arm. And once I dropped my kid because of a cramp like that,
Wow.
like luckily not too bad. It was at a vegan restaurant actually. It's pretty funny. But
Proof.
that
It
was
doesn't
like
work.
exactly.
The,
So that was pretty scary as well. I tried everything. Tried adding potassium, sodium, all the electrolytes, tweaking my diet. Nothing really helped with the cramps. And then the joint pains started and just got progressively worse. I was almost thinking I had arthritis or something because it was like in many places in my body, my upper body. And prior to that, I actually had a slip disc injury in my lower back. I didn't blame veganism for that one because I was playing soccer at 100 kilos, not ideal. So I didn't really connect the dots or blame it for that. But yeah, my joint pains were horrible. So I would have joint pain here, like in the connective tissues between my forearm and biceps, my elbows, my shoulders, and then when I ate meat or started even with eggs and mussels and shellfish, the cramps went away straight away. That was the first thing that went away. I noticed my skin changed immediately because I was noticing my skin was very thin, which was something strange that I started noticing at the end stages. And then that reversed itself just with a bit of, well, not a bit, I was eating like a couple 100 grams of shellfish per day, a couple eggs, and that fixed itself. So the cramp and my skin got better. The joint pain took a little bit longer, maybe a few weeks or something. Started getting better after I started eating meat. I saw the most improvements with the joint pains. And then when I went back to being vegan, I got really bad, wrist. My joint pain got super bad in my wrist. I couldn't lift weights properly because my wrist was just painful constantly. And then when I stopped again, that got better again. So yeah, so those are the main ones, and also digestive issues. You kind of get used to the runny poops and stuff like that. You kind
yep.
of normalize within the vegan community, like. It's like, oh, how do you know that's not how your shit is supposed to look like? How do you know you're not supposed to fart 500 times a day? Like that might be the natural way of doing things, but so that got improved straight away. My digestion, my bowel movement was a lot better as well. So those are the main things that I personally noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. You mentioned supplements there, and I went through the same fiasco, essentially trying to supplement every single nutrient out there. When vegans ask me, did you supplement? Yeah, I supplemented. First, I started with B12, DHA, EPA, D3, then K2, calcium, magnesium, whatever. I supplemented everything essentially in the end to really make sure. But it didn't help at all. I had tremendous cramps too, and no magnesium or electrolyte supplement could fix anything at all. Nothing helped at all. And then when you introduce the animal foods, it just repairs it by itself. My wife back then was anemic. Iron supplements, 1,000 milligrams and whatnot, nothing helped. Nothing whatsoever. Once she started eating steaks again, in the matter of a couple of weeks, no anemia anymore, with blood test to prove it as well. It's quite amazing. What is your stance on supplements nowadays, and how do you supplement in comparison to veganism nowadays?
Yeah. So as a vegan, I really wanted to, like, ideologically, I wanted to avoid supplements, but I never did because all of the experts were saying, like, you need to supplement B12. You need DHA. You need these things. So,
Yeah.
I got sponsored, or I reached out to this company who was like doing some good work within the supplement industry. They were testing, doing things that other companies were not doing. So I joined them with a plan of building up the company and having a piece of the company and all these things. And so from the start, I had access to all the supplements that I needed. So K2, vitamin D, B12, omega 3s, DHA. So I didn't, I definitely supplemented and had that insurance policy that a lot of vegans talk about. I didn't go, years and years without taking my supplements or B12 or anything like that. So I can't blame it on the lack of supplements or anything like that. And now, I don't think I don't have anything against supplementation, but there's a lot of supplements that I just don't see a point of taking anymore. B12, I don't take B12 because I'm eating, meat and animal foods on quite a large quantity.
But don't you know that the animals itself, they don't have B12. They take supplements as well. They're injected with B12, right, man. So you're getting it from a third party.
Yeah. So the deer that I'm eating, they have some pills in the forest, and
there's syringes everywhere. You have to check. Yeah. They inject themselves.
Exactly. So yeah, there might be a case for things like vitamin D3 if you're living here in Norway, and have no sunshine and that kind of stuff. But I'm not a big, I try to avoid as many supplements as possible because it's not as studied and researched as people believe. Like there's literally no studies and research on safety of supplementation. So I try to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a good perspective, and it's true. There is absolutely zero evidence for long-term supplementation of any particular supplement. We have not one study on any specific supplement. Let's take whatever, VivoLife, B12 supplement. There was never a study done on one person that took that supplement from birth till death. Never. You will never find something like that, right? So therefore, how is this an insurance policy? It's the exact opposite. Exactly. That's crazy. Guys, thank you very much for the super chats. I'm going to read them out in 10 minutes or so. First, we have a couple of questions to go through, and then we're going to answer the super chats. If you have any questions to Jon, super chats and Streamlabs donations will be prioritized. Thank you very much for your support. Okay. Yeah, so how do you eat nowadays then? You mentioned you already have some wild deer. How do you eat nowadays?
Yeah, that's how I started. I started because transitioning out of veganism, because I did it, for moral and ethical / spiritual reasons. Like I didn't want to support the animal industry and the evil farmers and these things. So I started with doing a lot of wild game. But now I eat pretty much all the animal products that I can get my hands on, essentially. So. I would say currently I probably get 60-70% of my calories from animal foods, more or less, probably more sometimes. And I eat beef, a lot of beef, some fish, and seafood, not that much, but I'd say mostly beef, and then wild game, deer, these things. Here in Norway, we have backyard chickens, so now I'm eating more eggs. It's hard to find good quality eggs. I'm not so sure about the feed that they get, usually. But here I eat quite a bit of eggs. What else? And then I take some like organ meat, desiccated freeze-dried organ meats as well.
Nice.
And yeah, man, I have some raw dairy. Want to get my hands on raw dairy, raw butter. Even normal butter as well I have, because it's hard to find raw stuff, and it's actually illegal most places. So I think that's we were eating at some friends actually yesterday. Went for dinner for the first time, I don't know, in years, and they're on a carnivore diet. So like they had this pork belly, which was the first time I've ever tried a pork belly, and that was delicious. So yeah, I might incorporate that as well. But yeah, I'd say mostly red meat is what I'm eating right now. And then fruits. I do have some fruits and berries. We have a lot of wild blueberries growing here. I love those things. Raw honey, do eat a little bit of that as well. And then, white rice and white potatoes. Yeah, eased off a lot on the greens and these things. Yeah, quite a bit. Like, I haven't really had the need to eat broccoli anymore and these things. So,
What?
yeah.
So healthy. Healthy goitrogens. Yeah, it's interesting to see how that shifts, right? For me, when I stopped veganism at first, I was quite shocked with the carnivore community, and I thought I'm going to do the bare minimum just to be healthy. So I'm going to incorporate a little bit of eggs, a little bit of fish. But then you see those improvements, and ultimately by lowering the plant intake, the better it gets. Was it the same for you? The lower the plant intake, the better the health outcome? Or how do you experience that?
Well, because I've never been on a full carnivore diet, I can't say for sure. But what I can say is the more animal foods, the better. So, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely like that. It is a chronic undereating of animal foods in the West. It's so funny to me when the vegans list some studies about meat eaters, and then you look into the study design and you see they're talking about people that are on an 80% plant-based diet. So they're eating sandwiches with a little bit of deli slices. Wow, meat eater.
Yeah.
Or they're eating a Big Mac and they're thinking, I'm eating this big, huge burger. That thing has, I don't even know, man, 200 grams of meat at best. At best. Maybe 150.
Not even.
Not even, right? They're so thin, those patties, unbelievable. So it's already plant-based, and on top of that, the worst of all plants, because you have vegetable oils and processed carbs, etc., etc., etc. And then they're talking about bad meat. It's ridiculous. People nowadays have a meat deficiency.
And plant-based diets are essentially, in epidemiology, some studies consider 70% plant-based to be, they label that plant-based, and people...
Yes.
Confound plant-based and vegan, so they just assume that's a vegan diet, which still includes 30% at least the calories from meat, or animal foods, which is very different from vegan.
Absolutely, man, because the term is correct. 70% plants is plant-based, but nowadays, because they have that term plant-based that they associate with essentially unethical veganism, just dietary veganism is being plant-based, and then they assume it's a 100% plant diet. But it's not. No, if you look into the Okinawans or the Sardinians, they're far from veganism. If you look into what those people truly eat, they always eat the whole animal. Sure, I give you that they're eating starches, like sweet potatoes and whatnot, but ultimately they're eating heaps of organ meats, bone broths, etc., etc.
Yeah, I don't think McDougall's starchivore theory holds up anywhere.
Was the guy that broke his hip, right? Just by falling.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah.
He fell and broke his hip.
Ouch.
Strong bones. Strong bones. With the game meat.
Apparently, I have a friend who broke his hip recently, and apparently if you're over a certain age and you break something, you're automatically labeled by the medical community as frail. And so they can, do all kinds of surgeries and these things and make some cash. But that's interesting. I wonder if McDougall has a titanium hip now.
I don't know, man. Terminator Google. Anyways, you with your game meat around there, have you ever tried just eating game meat? That would be interesting to me. If you ever just ate the game meat and nothing else, and if you see a difference.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I would assume I would be getting way too little fats. Maybe that's okay, maybe not. I don't know. But essentially, the game meat here is deer or reindeer, and that is it's so lean. It's like the leanest meat you can find. So, but I know a lot of people that are not huge fans of having a lot of fats. So in my work, I don't think it'll be good long term. I think the fats help with satiation and nutrition as well. The fat soluble vitamins and all these things. So yeah, I'm not sure if that would be the best approach, especially when a lot of people talk about the hunter gatherers and how the animals that we used to eat before, and apparently a lot of them were very fatty, like fat animals as well. Not only there's a lot of vegans who are talking about like, you know, in the paleo age, we're eating antelopes and these things that have no fats because they're anti-fat, a lot of them. But you know, I think we're eating a lot more, you know, of the fatty meats as well. So, you know, who knows?
I don't know, man. The only time I ate only wild game meat was in Australia. And the excess that I had there was kangaroo, which is super lean. But the kangaroo's tail is extremely fatty. I never tried the tail, but the rest of the kangaroo is pretty much 1% fat. But I think what they do is they dig a hole into the desert and then they smoke the tail and they eat the chewy fat like that. And another animal that I was eating there was crocodile, which is obviously supremely lean, has no fat at all. Yeah. But on that type of diet, I felt the best. I remember just eating kangaroo and crocodile was fantastic. Nothing else. Just that meat. And that was before I went vegan. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, because I wanted to just eat as natural as possible. And hey, looking back, I was right. But yeah, I thought it's still bad to eat the animals, and then I went vegan. But I never felt as good as eating only the wild local meat. That's why I asked.
And you haven't tried it after quitting veganism?
Like that, no. And I'm not in Australia anymore, so unfortunately not. Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, that would be an interesting experiment for sure. Might be my first YouTube video back.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I just ate local game meat.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. I just ate reindeer for 30 days.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Have you tried raw meat as well?
Yeah, not like in big amounts, but like I'll have a bite just to taste. You know, right before cooking, I'll just have a bite to see, you know, how it tastes and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And first time I did it was like when I first quit veganism. I had a bite of raw deer, and I thought it was gonna taste disgusting, but yeah, it didn't taste bad at all, actually.
Yeah. It actually tastes much more when you cook it. That's what I found. So, for example, especially with fish, right? If you have sushi doesn't taste much. And then when you cook fish, it smells fishy, right? That stinks like fish. Yeah, but if you don't cook it and it's fresh, it doesn't smell like anything.
Yeah, and I feel like the raw meat a lot of times is softer, more tender. Like, and when you cook it, it hardens up a lot.
Yes, absolutely. What I tried here... It's 2 weeks now. 2 weeks ago, for the first time, is high meat, so actual rotten meat. So yeah, that's the other opposite of the spectrum of veganism or raw veganism. So when you end up eating rotten meat, I put it into a jar. It was a grass-fed steak, and I let it ferment for 2 months straight. That definitely smells like somebody farted on your tongue. And yeah, the effects are quite amazing though. It has this extremely calming effect right after eating it, and you just feel at peace. It's very, very interesting and made me reflect upon what kind of being the human is. That we're essentially happy when we're eating rotten meat. It's quite the opposite of the vegan perspective that we should live in this Garden Eden paradise. We're just munching on fruits and everything is just so sterile and clean. The opposite seems to be the truth. I mean, even if you look into cheeses or yogurts, right, which are fermented animal foods.
Yeah, that what you high meat you call it, right? High meat.
That's what it's called.
It's like the carnivore version of natto for vegans.
Pretty much, yeah. They call it high meat. They call it high meat because apparently you get high of it. When I had it the first time, I would say that it is comparable to a puff of a joint. I could even compare it to that, but it leaves you quite fast. So after 2 minutes or so, you're back to baseline, but you feel very calm and grounded. It's amazing.
Huh. Yeah, I'm definitely willing to try that. I don't know. I'm like the other day I ate this raw sour cream that was like pretty fermented. I was like, but I didn't want to waste it. Like, I spent so much money on this thing, I don't want to throw it away. And Catherine took a smell. I was like, no, you can't get this. And then I just ate it anyways, and yeah, it was fine. Like, no problems at all.
Yeah,
so, I think we can handle a lot more than people realize for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's shocking, right? I don't know how it was for you, but after veganism, I was almost afraid to eat meat, how my body will react. And now I'm sitting here eating rotten meat. And otherwise you throw out the meat if it's set in the fridge 2 or 3 days too long. But now you realize, yeah, well, we can take much, much more. Nothing happens here. It's actually always better.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. It's pre-digested, just like smoothies.
Mmm, delicious smoothie bowls. Do you miss those?
I haven't actually had a smoothie at all. I think I can't even like. Yeah, wow, it's been a long time. Yeah, yeah, I definitely don't miss those. I do enjoy vegan. Like I miss vegan junk food, as in like for the pleasure it tastes like that. I'm not a ex-vegan who thinks that vegan food tastes bad. Like like taste wise, I like everything, and so eating meat is not something I'm doing because I think it tastes much better than
Mm.
I don't know, like a delicious curry or something like that, like a proper authentic Indian curry or something like that. I love all kinds of cuisines and food. I'm
Yeah.
a big foodie, so to speak. But I would say like now that I've eaten more and more animal foods, it's changed my palate. Just like they say in veganism, it's like you have to like have an adjustment period to be able to crave those greens or whatever, like to make them taste good. It's not the same because like the first time when I went back to eating meat, it was like this feels like human food. This is not something that I had to get used to. But the more and more time that has gone by, the more and more I appreciate it. And yeah, I don't know if it's like the little piece of vegan guilt or whatever that was there. Maybe that's completely integrated and gone, or whatever the case is. But after, I'd say now it's been over a year since the second time I quit veganism, and it tastes better than ever for sure.
During veganism, I always had those go-to foods like peanut butter or some whatever specific muesli that I liked, and I would crave those foods, and I couldn't even imagine veganism without them. Nowadays, I don't have any desire for those foods at all. So that's why I asked about the smoothie bowl. When did you had it the last time? I think the desire for those specific plant food just goes out of the window. Those healthy ones, especially because they're so healthy for you.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the only cravings or desires that I have for plant foods is like a very nice ripe, papaya or something
Yeah,
like that, like a mango from Thailand or something like that.
yeah,
Those I would really enjoy, and I would take anytime. But
100%.
peanut butter, I haven't touched peanut butter actually, and I used to have it all the time before, like pretty often before. So yeah, definitely noticed that too.
When we talked, we chatted quickly about vegan children. We want to watch some YouTube videos. Unfortunately, we cannot do that because I cannot share my sound. So Boomer Bobby will try to fix that for upcoming streams. But nevertheless, what is your perspective on vegan parenting? And if you want to talk about it, you can tell us as well what you are feeding your children. I did even a little video. I censored my kid, but I showed what he is eating. So if you want to share upon that, that would be amazing too.
Mhm. Yeah. So my main reason for quitting veganism was becoming a parent, and noticing things in the vegan community. Even before becoming a parent, I was seeing red flags, and for the first time that I started questioning it, it was in a veg fest. I gave a speech, and I was like in line taking selfies with a lot of people who wanted to take selfies with me, and the next person up in the queue was a mom that handed me over a baby to hold, to take a picture with the baby, and I felt like there was something off about it, and off about the baby, and I couldn't point my finger at what it was, but essentially, I thought it was like a newborn kind of, maybe like max 1 year old or whatever, and I asked the mom how old the baby was, and she said almost 2 years, but like it was like it looked like a baby, but very heavy. Like it was heavy. The baby was heavy, but yeah, she was, she kind of looked like a baby that couldn't move or walk or anything like that. So that was like the first thing that I was really shocked about. I didn't quit veganism because of that, because I thought, I mean, anyone can be unlucky or whatever. Like maybe I'm just overthinking. So I had to have many of these experiences that went against my belief, to start really questioning it. And when I had my son, then that's when I really felt like I needed to do everything I can to be sure that this was the right decision. And so I started asking all my contacts. So I was very well connected within the community, and I knew all the doctors, had access to them. I was asking, what are you guys basing this thing on, that it's healthy for children? Like, can you guys send me some studies? Like, what's the research on this? And before, I was just like everyone else, who's just parroting the same thing, taking a message and they're just repeating it and learning and memorizing it. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't doing the research myself. And so I started doing that and reading the research and actually reading the studies word by word, even though, we're not supposed to be able to, because we're not doctors, right? But the studies are so basic, so simple. It's like, a fifth grader could understand it. And they don't prove anything at all. If anything, it shows many red flags, even in the studies that they showed me as proof for veganism being optimal, or at least as good as omnivorous diets for kids. So these studies were not good at all. They were sending me studies that, the only kids that were stunted or wasted were in the vegan or vegetarian groups. And I was like, well, what about these guys? Like, oh, well, that's because the mothers, they were breastfeeding too long. They're giving too little calories, blah, blah, blah. They always have a reason for why the data is the way it is.
Wow.
So yeah. So once that happened, and also observing some things in my own kid that I don't want to, I'm not, in a position to share anything because I can't. But that also was a big thing that was like, okay, that's it, no more. And then I stopped after that. So yeah, I think, and I had many vegan parents who I knew who were experiencing similar things, who were observing their own children with gut issues, dental problems, just things that shouldn't happen with these people who are very, very dedicated to doing everything whole food based. They were not junk food vegans. They were not, just giving them sugar or whatever. They were like, really trying to do their best to, make their children thrive. And even then, they were not thriving. And that was like, wow, if these, kids are worse off than kids on a standard American diet, and these parents are doing everything they can with whole foods, nobody else, puts that much effort into parenting, and they're not making it work. That doesn't make any sense at all. So most of these parents that I knew are not vegan anymore either. We talk a lot about these things. And luckily, when they start incorporating animal foods to their kids, they improve. And I haven't seen any of those parents go back to being vegan. So, no.
Yeah, it's quite the testament for the vegan diet. Back in the day when I talked to Tristan, he saw that as well. And I think now it is already over 10 years ago in Peru. A lot of vegan expats with their children as well, feeding them vegan diets. And nowadays, nobody is vegan any longer. And of course, it becomes crucial when we're talking about children here. And this is why I believe that within the vegan community, we see such a push. Obviously, they're promoting the diet because it is so healthy, etc., etc. But from people that don't have children or even have vasectomies, right, etc., etc. And those people are not in the position to talk about such a thing, to make any recommendations. And this is why attacking this ideology is so crucial in my worldview. People think I'm just a troll here, just pointing at veganism and making fun, but ultimately I'm a father myself nowadays, and I see what can happen to children, and I don't want this ideology to be imposed onto them. If you want to gamble with your own health, okay, have fun, knock yourself out, you're gonna suffer, and then after a while you're gonna become an ex-vegan, like 99% of the rest. There is an 80% dropout rate within the first 3 years and a 99% dropout rate within 10 years of veganism. So ultimately, who will stay vegan in the long run? But yet again, I don't care for that experiment. What I care about the most is, of course, when I see people getting into veganism and then having children and feeding that diet to those children. Yeah, gambling with their health.
Yeah. And it's such a difficult topic because, like, when you're in it, when your belief system is so set in stone, like there is nothing that can really change your mind unless you experience something horrible and scary like that. And the reason why there's so many parents willing to try it is because they see people online who have vegan families, who have raise their families vegan and that kind of stuff. And sure, maybe they're fine and they're healthy, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone, right? Like, you know, just because everyone gets most people who get a jab are okay, it doesn't mean that, you know, everyone is going to be, or whatever, like, you know. And with veganism, it's very risky, and so it's hard because we're seeing examples out there of parents, and I don't blame them as evil, because they truly believe in this thing, and their family seems healthy. I don't know, I haven't met them, I can't analyze their psychology or whatever, but, you know, to their best knowledge and to everyone's all the viewers' knowledge, it looks perfect, like, you know, tropical living, good vibes. So like I can understand why people use these examples as proof that it can be done, and mix with their own ideology and belief system. They see it as a disservice to their kids not to have them be vegan, you know. So it's hard, and when you're so deep into that belief system and ideology, you're even blind to your own experience, and you know, you can't see clearly in front of the mirror. You can't see your kids with an objective you know, perspective. So it's really hard to snap out of it, but yeah.
I always say that the trust in yourself just fades away the longer you are vegan. For me, it's quite shocking. During veganism, I wouldn't listen to myself at all. My experience wouldn't matter anymore. I would even laugh it off as anecdotal evidence. As if I'm going to listen to myself. Listen to the studies, right? It's unbelievable, honestly, in what kind of denial you have to fall into to not even listen to your own experience, when this is literally the only thing you got. You don't have anything else. Nothing. No matter what I'm going to say here, no matter what you're going to say, no matter what I can't even pronounce those organizations here, WHO, etc., will say, it won't change anything about your experience ever. Period. That's it.
Yeah, and like obviously the schooling system, like society is structured in a way to, you know, disempower us and then outsource, you know, all trust and everything to someone outside of yourself. And so, like, yeah, most people that I know, they're not listening to their bodies. They're not in touch with their bodies. They don't have you know, any spiritual beliefs. You know, they're just essentially just taking orders, and that is exactly what the system is supposed to create, and it's been very successful. So yeah, it's really sad, and especially now with the world events, like you see even more clearly how the human experience, the anecdotes really don't matter at all. Like it's all about the science, and that's how it is.
How was that for you? Let's shift gears quickly, and we're going to come back to veganism again, but just because you mentioned it. How was it for you during those crazy times? And as I said already, we have to use certain phrases, certain words to mask it up a bit. But how was it for you seeing how people would change, how people would go along with this? How was it for you over those past 2 years?
Yeah, I think when you're vegan, you're already, because, you know, we talk about, you think you're anti-establishment and these things when you're vegan. So like, you know, it wasn't like a massive shock, but it was very interesting because like I didn't have the answers. So when it started, you know, I was like, you know, staying home and that kind of stuff. And I was in Barcelona, which had, or Spain had one of the worst lockdowns in Europe, and they locked us in the house for 8 weeks or 9 weeks, wow. I believe. Like, and you couldn't even walk in your neighborhood, in your own street. And the only places you could go is to the liquor store, the smoke shop, and to do essential groceries. But only one person. Yeah, one person in the car. You couldn't even have your family out in the car for a ride or anything like that. There were police everywhere. So that was like horrible. Like, you know, it was insane, and I was open to it being a horrible situation. I didn't, you know, really look into it, but immediately when the official numbers came out and I could read them, I was like, you know, this is definitely not justified at all. And that's when I like started, like, you know, going out and like, you know, breaking the rules and these things, and it's essentially, it was like a zombie movie. I was the only one in the entire city that I was in walking outside. It was like not even the police was there to check on people because everyone was so compliant.
Yeah.
So I was just like, with my little scooter, going around the city, empty, completely empty. Wow. It was fascinating. But yeah, it was hard because the more I went into it and the more I realized that, wow, they're doing such a huge push. This is such a turning point in the world that it's so extreme in many ways that it's gonna take a lot for people to even consider the possibility that this is how it is. And so up until this point, like, there's a lot of people that I know that have, starting to question things, but still, 2 years into it, most people are just, going with the narrative, and they think that, a lot of people have canceled me. A lot of family members think I'm completely nuts. And yeah, so it's been really sad, especially with some of the the side effects and these things that I've seen in people in real life and these things as well. So yeah, it's been really sad.
Yeah, the zombie scenario that you mentioned reminds me of the quote of The Matrix when they say everybody can become an agent. And this is how I felt when I was in Portugal, out of all places. I thought Portugal would be so chilled and much more relaxed than Germany, for example, but it was quite the opposite. You had the curfews, you had the lockdowns, you had to stay at home, and then sometimes you were allowed to leave, but only with a mask outside, right? And that, for me, didn't make any sense from the get-go, especially when I became a dad and was in Portugal. I didn't want to wear a mask outside whilst holding my child. I wanted him to see my face. And as I said, everybody becomes the agent, because I would walk down the street and people would jump away from me. Young and old, they would jump away. Honestly, it happened roughly 3 times that they almost got caught by a car, just jumping away. And I said, yeah, man, that's the better health outcome. So just kill yourself. It's much better than walking close to me, the dirty mouth breather here without his mask. It's quite amazing. I got stopped by a bunch of cops that would tell me you have to pay a €200 fine, but not as often. It happened maybe 2 or 3 times or so. But ultimately, every single day I would get those looks. People would point the finger, Mashka, por favor. I would say, I don't speak your language. But yeah, anyways, it was quite the crazy experience. And I never believed that so many people will be on board. I thought if something like that breaks out, it will be 50-50. I assumed naively. 50-50 must be like that, right? We have opposing views. Nothing like it, man. 99% went right ahead. When the jabs came out, they couldn't wait to get it. They lined up. It was craziness.
Yeah, everyone with the little stickers and
donuts.
Obviously now, like, there's a different version of this going on, but insane but yeah, I'm really, in many ways I'm thankful, and I've developed a lot as a person during that, because I've always been, okay with confrontation and disobeying teachers in school and these things. Like, I haven't really been the most the best student in these things, but this like really forced me to like do the most uncomfortable things, where like 99% of the people would like stare at you and like are really angry and these things. And I eventually just stopped giving a shit completely, and I was walking without a mask inside the stores. The police would stop me. They would like try to kick me out. In airports, I'd be the only one without a mask on. They would like try to all kinds of experiences like that. And
that's why it lasted so long, man. Just because of you, John. Otherwise, we would have been done last year already. Super spreader, John.
My fault. Yeah. So that helped a lot with developing the like detaching from people's opinion, detaching from the fear of confrontation and these things. So that helped me a lot, but yeah, it was a good experience. It's a self-development project, I call it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to read out the super chats real quick. We only have 3. And then we're going to continue with our conversation. First, we have Bilal Shaban, who donated $100. Thank you very much for the generous donation. I appreciate it. Let me give you an applause. John, you can't hear the applause, right?
I'll do it as well.
There you go. He says, may Allah guide us and you, Bobby, to the straight path. Amin. Thank you very much. God bless. Then we have Ricardo Aragao. That's actually a jiu-jitsu friend of mine from Portugal. Good to see you, bro. He says, what do you guys think about the carnivore diet? Peace. Yeah, I talked about it often on my channel here. Quick resume is that I think the carnivore diet is the best reset diet. If you have gut issues especially, the carnivore diet is the fastest fix there is. Long term, I personally am of the firm conviction that carbohydrates will benefit you. Ultimately, that can be in fruit, honey form, but even starchy carbohydrates like white rice can play a role, especially if you're into sports like gym, MMA or whatnot. Carbs definitely can play a role. If you're doing endurance sport, then carbs definitely play a role. Like during ride, I would say carb up, right? That helps there especially. So yeah, but anyways, the carnivore diet can be fantastic if you have issues to heal, and it can change your perception of food quite tremendously, so you won't be overeating after that experience and you get to appreciate nutrient-dense animal foods much more. That's what it did for me. Yeah. And then we have a super chat directed to you, John, by František Novotny. John, how is your brother Leo doing? Is he still a vegan? And do you still have the conflict because you left the cult? Thank you very much for the donation.
Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, he's still vegan, and I wouldn't we have a conflict in terms of beliefs and these things. And then when I first stopped being vegan, we had hours of debate. Like we're debating the science, all these things, and at the end of the day, like, we're still brothers. Like we have that love for each other that is not affected by that. I hope, like, from my side, I definitely don't feel affected by it. But of course, when there is, like, it's hard because, like, we know that we have such drastic, because when you're vegan, automatically you have a drastic different view and opinion. Like, if you're ethical vegan, you see meat as murder, and yeah. if you see ex-vegans and they've been vegan for ethical reasons before, they're willingly committing murder and these things. So, like, it's hard for people. So it's hard for him, I'm sure. But luckily we still have that bond, and we're close, and we can still have a good time together, luckily.
Yeah, that would have been my question as well. First and foremost, thank you everybody for the super chats. Let me give you an applause again. Appreciate it. If you want to support, the link is in the chat box, the super chats and the Streamlabs. Thank you very, very much. If you have any questions for John, I'm going to answer them in the next 20 minutes or so. About not only your brother, but you said other family members were vegans as well, right? The last time that we talked. So how does it look like with the rest of the family, and moreover the rest of the vegan community? For example, back in the day you had this group of you, Brian Turner, Simnet Nutrition, I think Nima Delgado as well, if I'm not mistaken. You were all hanging out. So how does it look like? What's the connection with those people?
Yeah, that's so family first. My brother Leo, he went vegan 9 years ago, so he was the first dude to go vegan, and so 2 years later, I went vegan after watching Earthlings, and then the rest of the family went vegan at the same time. So everyone is still vegan, to the best of my knowledge, and that's something that they're not planning on switching or quitting or whatever. So they we still have that family bond and that kind of stuff. But of course, my parents think that we're doing the wrong thing, of course, because how can you not think that when you're a vegan? And obviously they think we're delusional and doing a disservice to our health for eating animal foods and these things. So, and I completely understand that. And it is more difficult because when we're in Spain, we have a living situation where I live in the bottom half of their house. They used to rent out the house, and now we kind of took over. And so like, there are triggers like the smell of meat coming up and these things like, there are some triggers that weren't there before that make it a little bit more difficult. So that has changed, the relationship, unfortunately, a little bit, but we still have that, that love that surpasses everything. So that's fine. And then with friends and stuff like that, yeah, some of them definitely, they send, some of them send letters and these things and saying that we cannot ever be friends again. We can't
Letters, actual letters by post.
Well, like not like a physical, letter, like paper letter, but like
this is the official breakup. Here you go.
A very long text with 6 signatures and everything.
Wow.
So yeah, and some of the, like, I'm not as close with the bros as I was before. They were my best friends at one point, and hopefully, like, they still respect me as a friend and these things, and we haven't really connected because of the kurats and all these things. So it's been hard to get back in touch. But yeah, but some of them, I don't want to like talk about specific people, but even the people that I was like really like the closest to have distanced themselves and blocked me on social media even. So yeah,
wow,
it's been interesting to experience people who you think are very close friends just completely shift when you stop being vegan. And I understand to a certain extent, but like I would never do that myself. Even if I, the first time I got canceled by the vegan community was when Tim Sheaf became ex-vegan. I made a video like this, or Instagram post and a video just like, wishing him luck. And
Wait a second, you kind of broke off there. Just a second, guys, we have technical difficulties here. John just froze. Let me try to call him back. Just a second, guys. No, have to hang up and call back. Okay, yeah, interesting stuff there, man. Getting cancelled by his friends. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna be right back, guys. Let me just try to bring John back on. Okay, and we're back. John, say something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you again. You just froze there and then the connection was gone.
I see. Yeah, I can see that the connection is... I think my wife might have turned off the Wi-Fi because of the habits when going to sleep.
That might be. Is that late already?
Well, the kids go to sleep now.
Oh, good for you. Mine stays awake till 11 or 12. Can't make him sleep.
Nice. Yeah, that's the downside of having them sleep this early is that I have to wake up like at 5-6 a.m. every morning, and I've always been a night owl, so that was like one of the hardest things I had to do in my life is adjust to this new schedule.
Same here. I know how that feels. Anyways, we're talking about the canceling by certain vegans.
Yeah, so I don't know how far I went into it, but essentially I got canceled for the first time when Tim Sheaf became ex-vegan, and I showed support, and so that was unacceptable. It was not acceptable to show support. So it's really, like you never really know who your friends are, I guess, until like something happens that makes you take a different position to them or have a different belief to them. And I believe that true friendships should remain even if a philosophical shift happens, like that shouldn't affect it at all. So yeah, you find out pretty quickly who your real friends are.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I understand exactly what you say because I have the same perspective on that matter. If you have any type of different ideology than me, I wouldn't base my friendship upon that at all. Like literally zero. For me, it's interesting. I can find out something new. We can agree, we can disagree, we can discuss. I couldn't care less. But I understand it because I've witnessed that with my shift in different ideologies, be it veganism, be it religiously or whatnot. And you will see, in the end, the only constant is you. People come and go and come and go and talk to you and like you and give you beautiful comments, give you crappy comments. But in the end, the only constant is you, anyways. And yeah, you're born alone and you die alone. That's how I see it ultimately. But nevertheless, quite telling that people will take it so personal. And that is because veganism is their personality. It is such an attachment that is not only an attachment anymore, but it is them. It is what they are, it is who they are, it is what they breathe. And for that, they will cancel you. It's quite telling.
Yeah, yeah, and one of them, said to me that it wasn't a personal thing. It's just that when they have such a conviction to this thing, they can't allow this energy to enter and to create any doubts in the family and these things. So it's just, but that just, to me, that just shows, like if your convictions are true, like your faith is strong or whatever, like it shouldn't matter that someone else has a different belief. Like that means that there is some self-doubts deep down that they have that they haven't worked through in these things, or maybe they're trying to ignore. And my presence reminds them of that self-doubt or something like that,
The dirty flesh eater reminds them of their past ways. Yeah, that is fascinating though, that you mentioned that ultimately they got triggered because it would bring uncertainty. And I believe that 3 or 2 years ago, we had this very, very strong push for anti-veganism, ex-veganism, a lot of vegan apostates, so to speak. It started really with Tim Sheaf, then Vegetable Police, and many, many more to follow. And during that time, maybe I'm imagining things, but during that time, I could really see in their eyes, on their videos, that there was doubt all of a sudden in the minds of those vegans. Everything that they presented seemed so incongruent and uncertain to me personally. I was watching their videos and I saw that they've been affected by that information that was out there, but they didn't want to accept it. They were wrestling with it. Some people I could tell, they're going to turn ex-vegan very soon. Others I could see kind of falling back into that slumber again and just staying in that denial, making themselves believe that veganism is the right thing. So I can understand why they wanted to distance themselves from you. It's interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I think that is the case for a lot of people, and that's why I think this group attack happens so much, is because it kind of solidifies and they can just kind of encourage each other and make their beliefs stronger. And if they attack someone and make fun of them enough, just it diminishes that person's experience to a joke, essentially. So like, you're a joke. You're the egg mushroom guy. I'm the confused vegan turned hunter. These things, and like it diminishes it. Like they try to diminish the person into a joke to keep the ideology alive, which I can't support, because that's horrible to speak about these things, and the amount of death threats that I personally received were horrible. I still get to this day.
Really? Talk about that. Yeah. Talk about the vegan hate that you got.
Yeah, so when I sent the support to Tim Sheaf, that was like the first hates, and then I had a tiny period where I experimented with eating a few eggs, and then I made an honest video about that, and that was a lot of pushback as well.
Yeah.
And then I did a vegan label. I didn't want to label myself vegan, and that was another pushback. But the majority of the hate was when I was officially like done with veganism, and that was, I think, within the first few days, like 300 plus videos on YouTube by all the top vegans making fun of me and these things. I haven't watched all the videos, but I saw some from the main people, like Joey Carbstrong and these people who were friends, in real life at events and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see the hate and the name calling and all the insults, and that was crazy. But the worst was the death threats and these things, and vegans really, like, not even threatening me, but threatening my family and these things, saying that they're going to come after me. And even a week ago, I had an email sent to me with saying that they're going to do horrible things to my family, and send pictures of mutilated human beings.
Wow, sick.
And sick stuff. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So I have had a lot of experience with a lot of anger and hate, for sure.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Yeah. And it's you learn, like, I went through a lot. Like, I went through this, I wouldn't say depression, but it was like a period where I was lost in my life completely, and I went to very, very dark places. It was the darkest period of my life, confused, didn't know, because veganism was my life. It was like, everything to do with what I wanted to do in my life. And so I went through this dark confusion, along with all the threats and hates and all that stuff, like, really got me to some dark places. But it helped me, come back stronger, and be able to deal with these negative feedback and all these things, and that essentially helped me as well with all the world events that are happening right now. And I feel like, all that stuff was good, a positive thing in the end. Although it seemed like the worst thing in the moment. Speaking your truth is never going to be bad. It just may look like it and feel like it in the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. Absolutely sickening stuff. I got plenty of death threats myself, no matter which ideology I talked about. For example, for me, I talked about political situations within Macedonia, my country, etc., etc. This is when I became public enemy number one. I got death threats every single day, to this very day still. I'm visiting soon, so if you want to kill me, I'm going to be there. But what I find more shocking is that they send you those mutilated humans. Ultimately, I believe that comes from this degrading view on humans within the vegan ideology. Because if you think about humans just as animals, you're degrading them, and you essentially look at them as non-humans, subhumans, and therefore they feel completely justified in attacking you, your family, because you are lesser than humans. For them, the conceptualizations of human don't even exist anymore. They don't understand what it means to have that dignity as a human. And therefore they say, if you're stabbing a cow in the throat, I am justified to attack your family and stab them. That's how they see it. It's such a self-defeating worldview, because ultimately, I say it over and over again, if we then are animals, then there's absolutely no reason not to eat animals. Because animals eat other animals, we are animals too, so I can eat other animals, and I can bring out all that animal instinct in me and just be a vicious beast, and you wouldn't have any right in the world to attack me then. But of course they will do, because of moral agency and yada yada yada, while simultaneously not behaving moral at all. It's such a self-defeating ideology, very, very sinister and disgusting. The longer I am ex-vegan, the more I see how dark it truly is, or can be. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I took such a long time off talking about veganism, because it's a lot, to tackle and to handle and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's not like I'm gonna by sharing my experience, I'm gonna all of a sudden fix their mental issues or disorders or anything like that. But I, at the same time, I feel like a duty to talk about it, because I pushed it so hard as well on so many people. So I at the same time also feel like it's important to share these experiences and perspectives as well.
Absolutely, man. I think it is the duty of any man to share the truth once they encountered it. That's how I see it. And I believe that ultimately, back then, when you went ex-vegan, got back to it, that was kind of confusing to the viewer base. I think that was the big hurdle for your viewer base. If you would have went full-blown anti, I think the resonance would have been greater. Because ultimately, what you will notice is nobody really cares for you. I love my viewer base, but nobody really cares for you. If something happens one day, people are going to forget. We're just going to disappear. It is what it is. What people are truly attracted to is strong emotions. Positive or negative, negative even more so. So as long as you give them that outlet, the more resonance you will create. And that's why. So when I went anti-vegan, it went quite big within a niche, of course, because people loved to hate me and they loved to call me the mushroom guy and the bald guy and the bad Eggman. It was fantastic. Go for it. That just summons more energy and more views, so to speak. And I'm not doing it only for the views, because I showed it here. For example, my Happy Healthy Vegan video made $17. Wow, mind-blowing stuff. And Ryan said he's doing it just for the views and just for the money. You know it yourself, how much videos can generate. It's actually quite pathetic, the money that you get from YouTube views itself. But nevertheless, that energy that you creates such a focus, and more people see it, and with that the truth can shine. So therefore, ultimately, it's just about polarization either way. Yeah.
Yeah, I always you know, I always tell my wife, I joke and say, like, you know, if I, you know, it would be like we wouldn't have lost this much money or this much, you know, stuff or been set back in whatever, like, you know, financial way if I were to just like become this crazy hunter guy or whatever, like, because people are attracted to this, you know, a clear message, a clear stance on things, but like at the end of the day, like I just wanted to share my authentic thoughts, and I'm not like you know, this or that person. Like, I'm interested in the nuance, which nobody is interested in the gray area and all these
not
things.
Online, no.
Not very popular. But yeah, it was who knows, I might come up with I don't know, this sea moss diet or whatever, like a carnivore antler eater. I don't know, like some niche to generate the views and make it. But it's interesting that people say you're doing it for the money. Like that was one of the main criticisms, that I quit veganism because of money. But you know, I left like I'm sure I could make millions of dollars if I continued on the path that I was on. And I haven't made a penny since, because I haven't tried either. But you know, I lost everything financially when I stopped being vegan. Everything. I was making a lot of money. And I left that on the table because that's how strong, you know, the experience was for me. That it was worth giving up everything, my identity, my career, all the income, put my family, you know, at risk of poverty or whatever. Not really, because, you know, obviously we have family that can take care of us and these things if things go really bad. But, you know, I was willing to give everything away and make no money. So that, I think that's also something that got people even more triggered, because I was doing so well, and I was willing to let everything go, and people would just, you know, I think that created an extra strong emotion for people as well who were vegan when I left.
Yeah, because you were up there, man. You were in the top 10 of the vegan celebrities, weren't you? You mentioned millions there. How would that come about? Not only through YouTube, right? Do you think about sponsorships, deals? I don't know how the vegan world works, like supplements. Where would the income come from? Yeah,
so I was making a lot of money even without trying. Like I could have made so much more, and I have friends who are making, you know, taking advantage of it more and making, you know, some serious money. But even me, like, you know, not really focusing on money. I was more focusing on passive income and living the life, you know, traveling to Thailand, to Bali, you know, and just traveling the world and eating fruit smoothie bowls. So I could have done a lot better, but essentially, you know, I was the sponsorships would be like, you know, a salary of $5,000 a month, for example.
Oh, wow.
It would be like another, you know, 5,000 or, you know, a couple thousand in commission sales, and then it would be in online meal plans and workout plans. I could sell, you know, 10, 20,000 a month or something like that. And so I was making a lot of money, and I could have made a lot more as well. And ebooks, all these things, people make a lot of money from. So people think that there is no money in veganism. Like, it's not right. There is a lot of money to be made with, not just saying in veganism, but in any niche that you focus on. There is a lot of ways to make money, especially when there is so much identity and emotion involved, such as veganism.
Yeah,
there's a lot of extra money to be made for sure.
You can always open a fundraiser for an animal sanctuary that you're never going to build, or an OnlyFans that works as well within the vegan community. I heard people are making whopping amounts with that, like in James Aspie and whatnot. So there's always a solution as well to get naked for the animals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been the OnlyFans trend has been very, very big in the vegan community recently.
Huge, I noticed that.
And that's not just like, you know, something that they finally can make money from. It's just an extra stream and source of income. Like there is people, every influencer has many different streams, and added together, you know, it would shock most people how much they make.
That's insane. We have 2 more super chats that I want to read out real quick. Thank you very much, guys, for the support. I appreciate it. Let me give you an applause again. First, we have Simcha. Thank you very much. Says, God bless you, Bobby, and thank you for enlightening me. I don't know if I enlightened you, but thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it. Gung Fu says, it takes a lot of strength and character for Jon to go against his own family's strong belief in the vegan way. I'm so happy he is finally on the right track now. Have you thought about rebranding your channel or do something completely different now? That's a question to you, Jon.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate the comment, and yeah, I've been thinking about what to do on YouTube specifically. As I said before, I carried on Instagram. You know, not really doing anything of that actually helps my accounts, just losing followers every day there. But you know, at least I'm speaking my truth, and that makes me feel like I'm doing, you know, I'm helping people and that kind of stuff. So, you know, I continue doing that. But in terms of YouTube, yeah, I've been thinking about it since I stopped veganism, what I want to do. And I had a little period where I was sharing more, you know, about personal development, emotional health, and spirituality. But you know, it's not, you know, my main passion of, like, it's not something that I feel like I want to do, or make videos about only spirituality or only you know, this topic or this topic. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, I'm sure I'll come to a solution or conclusion at some point. But I do want to just continue sharing once in a while, at least, what I'm eating, you know, how I'm doing, my philosophy on these things. And yeah, I haven't done it in a long time, but yeah, I've been wanting to for the last few weeks, to get back to it. And then I broke my ankle, and then I kind of you know, had to wait a little bit longer. I didn't feel motivated to make a video while I was injured. So, but it's coming soon. At least an update on how I'm living life and what I'm eating and these things.
Frail meat-eating bones. That's like exactly. Not enough calcium.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were a speaker as well, and I remember those scenes where you were speaking at Veg Fest and whatnot. Did they pay you for those things as well, for those appearances?
Never.
No, that's for free?
Never. Yeah, always. They could have, but they never paid anything. Yeah, yeah, it was one of the biggest disappointments. Always, like, you know, it was something that I always wanted to do, and it's something that I miss a lot, actually, public speaking. Because it was something that I grew up fearing a lot, and then when you overcome that fear, it feels good, and I always felt good, you know, speaking on stage and these things. So I missed that, but I never got paid for doing it. And to be honest, like, even if I did get paid, it would be such a small fraction of what I was making from other things that it wouldn't matter at all. But you have, you know, some people like Rich Roll and these people who are who would do speeches, but they only do it if they're paid, and obviously their fees are very, very large. So they tend to give priority to 1 or 2 speakers that they have to spend, you know, their whole budget on, and then they rely on everyone else doing it for free. So that's kind of how it works.
You're doing it for a good cause. You're doing it for the animals as well. So obviously, maybe we should start anti-veg fests so we can have some public speaking for you.
yeah, that might work.
Well, you mentioned spirituality. Let's talk about that quickly. I saw you talking about spiritual topics, about meditation practices, etc., etc. How does it look like for you now? Have you had a shift in your spiritual path, or where's it leading to you?
Yeah, so growing up, I was like, it was a very strange thing, because like my dad is you know, atheist. He told me from a very young age that, you know, he doesn't believe that God exists, but like he would still pray with me and these things, even though I knew that he didn't believe in it. So it created this strange situation where I was always thinking about the mortality of my parents growing up, and I was like crying every single night because like I didn't want it to be true, and deep down like I believed that there was more to existence. My mom, she's more, she grew up with a religious mom and that kind of stuff, but she wasn't like very religious or anything like that.
Was she Christian? Up, your mother, or
Catholic? Yeah,
Catholic Christian.
Yeah, and so my grandma, I remember in the early childhood, my grandma would always like throw holy water at us and like tell the devil to go away and these things. And so like I was pretty anti-religion when I was a kid because they were like things didn't really make sense to me, but I still believed in something more than material stuff. So I always had that that belief that was something more, and at least if not belief, a very, very strong hope. But until I went vegan, I didn't really think much about religion, spirituality, these things. It was going into veganism. It was when I stepped it up a little bit more and started thinking a lot more about spirituality. I never went into like New Age and these things because like I didn't want to go into a specific way of thinking, because I had such disdain for religion growing up that I didn't want to become the same or whatever. But I started becoming more and more open as the years went on to religions, and I was like reading more books on Christianity and Hinduism and these things, and Buddhism. And so that hatred for religion disappeared later in my life. And now going through the last 8 years, I've had an interesting kind of like growth in terms of spirituality. But I would say it's after leaving veganism where I've had the strongest kind of awakening, so to speak. Not that I have one event that kind of made me believe in God or something like that, because I always had that. So it's been many different stepping stones, but it was in that dark moment of my life where my purpose or whatever I thought was my purpose was gone, and I was like praying a lot and trying to find God in these things, and I did in many ways, and it doesn't look like a specific way that I can explain easily, but all I can say is like my relationship with spirituality has never been stronger, and I've had some experiences that many people would think is completely crazy as well. That changed my life completely. That made everything much better in terms of like, I guess a lot of people have these experiences on ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever, but I was lucky enough to experience these things in a way that it got me to embrace it, because I feel like if I were to have a trip and have that same experience, I wouldn't take it as seriously as I did without it. So I believe like a lot of these things come in the form, in the way that works best for each individual person. If you're open to it, if you're seeking for it, a lot of things can come. And then I started reading a lot about like channeling and all these things, and because I was like really sketched out and that kind of stuff, and then I started reading more about like Satanism and all these things, and there's a lot of different things out there, but for me, like I try not to go too deep into one kind of philosophy or the other. I just try to be open to everything and just like approach life with compassion essentially, and try to live that compassionate way of life, where I'm trying to do the best that I can for other human beings, and that's the most important, especially my family and these things.
Yeah. How would you describe those specific experiences? Did you ever had a psychedelic experience with mushrooms?
Yeah.
Or?
I've tried mushrooms a couple times, but I've never been able to have a psychedelic experience. I've had like
you have to take more. Terence McKenna says.
Yeah. So I try, like I took the same dose as everyone else, and maybe my liver processed it in a different way or something. I don't know.
How much was it? I'm interested to know. How many grams? Would you know?
Yeah, well, I know grams of cannabis and weed, so I don't know. Like I think it I don't know if it translates the same, but it would be. I would say it looked like 2-3 grams or something. Like if I were to guess.
Okay, it looked like 2 or 3 grams of weed.
Yeah.
Dried.
Yeah.
Okay, that's way too little. That's definitely too little. Yeah, you need to eat. You don't need to eat anything. It's absolutely not recommended to do any drugs. Please don't do them. But traditionally, shamans in the Amazon jungle have eaten a full plate, like literally a plate full of mushrooms. Yeah. So, and that was my first trip as well, which was 30 grams of dried mushrooms, and they consider 5 dried grams as a heroic dose. So the real magic happens definitely above 5 grams. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely underdosed. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I've never had a psychedelic experience. I've always wanted to have one, but never had one. Yeah. I've always been like a little bit afraid of because, I feel like I'm really sensitive to substances, and then I've always been afraid of taking things as well. So yeah. But I've always drank alcohol and these things growing up, smoked a lot of weed as well. So, but no, Ellis, like, these more hardcore, not hardcore, but like, more synthetic drugs I've never touched. And then, the mushrooms I've always wanted to, but never made it work. Yeah. So no psychedelic experiences with substances. Yeah.
Yeah, but nevertheless, you said you had those special experiences without it, and I understand what you mean, that gives you even a more profound understanding and appreciation because you weren't high, so to speak, so therefore it must be much realer to you.
Yeah, exactly. It changed my life completely. It gave me the peace that I was missing, and luckily it also did not happen in my darkest moments, because if it did, I would have assumed it was some sort of hallucination because I was depressed or whatever. And so these things happened luckily when I'd overcome a lot of these things and I was feeling good again. And it was essentially, I've even talked about it, not all of them, not the most powerful ones, and I don't have a desire to share everything, but one of the ones that I shared online was about some lights that came and surrounded me and these things, and filled my body with different energies and these things, like and changed my state a lot. And then when I shared that, it was a lot of I got a lot of people saying it was like I was being possessed by demons and these things, as I was expecting. But that was my experience, and essentially
it's, sorry to interrupt, it's just kind of comical because you always have those people in every single community. So within the religious community, I saw it too, that in the Christian Orthodox community, they call it pharmakia, which means it is essentially like a pharmacy of different plants that shouldn't be used, etc., etc., etc. And even with any type of genuine spiritual experience, they will just blame it on the devil right away. And my question would always be, okay, so how would I ever know? So you have to listen to the church father. Yeah, okay, but did that guy have an experience? And even if so, then I would have to take his word as the holy word. But even if you read the Bible, it will point you towards you, where it says the kingdom of heaven is within, right? And this is where the experience happens, yet again. As I said in the beginning of this stream, it's the only thing you really got. And that's what I saw, that people, no matter which community you belong to, will always play the same game of appealing to authority and parroting everything they've heard. So this is from the devil. But doesn't it say that God is the uncreated light? Yes, but this is the false light. Didn't you know? Satan is the light bearer, so it's the false light. So, okay, whatever. Ultimately, it is always the diminishment of your own experience, and that will go on in every single community out there, no matter what it is. Even scientifically speaking, even if you are a scientist that extracted a molecule like Albert Hofmann and you extracted the LSD yourself, they will tell you, yeah, well, where is the peer-reviewed study now? We didn't see it. It doesn't matter, ultimately. And this is why the reference point is always you. And I always say, hey, if you had the experience, you know it for yourself, then you know. And that's it. And I don't care. Because then you are confirmed within yourself, you're convicted, and nothing can change that.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's one of the like when I've had conversations with people who are very, you know, religious or belong to a religion. Like I don't like having the conversations because like I don't want, you know, to try to convince them of anything. I think, you know, whatever you want to believe is fine. But like, you know, when they ask me why, you know, I don't become Jewish or why I don't become, you know, Orthodox Christian or Muslim or whatever, like I always just say like how I can't bring myself to convince myself to believe in something that was potentially created by a person, like a human. Like how can I confirm and know for sure that this is God's word? How can I actually know? Like, you know, I'm a human being. How can I have the power to know that this is God's word? And that's, you know, has been my kind of my reasoning for not you know, being focused on only one kind of specific religion. Yeah.
I understand that. Lately I've been studying Islam and I found one description within quite powerful. They call it the fitra, and the fitra is the innate belief for God. So when you were talking about your father being an atheist, but you innately knowing about something higher, something greater, this is the concept that they talk about. This is the fitra. So ultimately I find that very, very powerful because it appeals to your own experience. And they say that your natural predisposition is a belief in God, and then your parents mold you and society shapes you, and you're getting away from that natural instinct. And this is what Islam ultimately should be about, of bringing you back to this natural instinct of understanding. For you, that must be very confusing, man, I imagine, having a father that tells you that he doesn't believe in God. Because my parents weren't super religious, but they both believed in God. And as a kid, I think everybody went through that. When you just envision your parents dying, yourself dying, getting into infinity, and what is infinity, and circling in bed, can't sleep.
Yeah.
So I think that your dad, as the leading figure of the household, if he doesn't have this belief in a higher power, that must be very, very confusing or traumatizing even, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said. I was up at night, you know, and I would visualize, you know, like, you know, zooming out from you know where I was, like, you know, trying to make sense logically of how can consciousness end, like how can my awareness just disappear when I'm dead, and these things, and like I would think so much, and I was like so small as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very confusing. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, man. I
And
think
I think, you know, like I have many friends from different religions, and like everything that I know, that like everything that I read in a certain scripture, I like a lot. You know, I like most things that I've read, and I think there's a lot of truth and wisdom to many of them, and I really appreciate those texts a lot. I think it's really good. It's just when the human attaches too hard and change, not necessarily change, because, you know, they're doing things according to how they're taught to interpret things, but it's when you know they decide that their thing is right and the other thing is wrong, and then it becomes like a human conflict of like, you know, hate and these things. That's where the where most of the problem lied for me growing up, and which is why it took me so long to have a healthy relationship with spirituality, was because all that confusion as well.
Yeah, I can understand that, man. What I saw is that many people make the religion their god.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that is very, very dangerous because ultimately, even if you look into the Abrahamic faiths, the idea behind it is to have no idols, right? So the first step would be to not worship the golden calf, for example. The story in the Old Testament, they were worshiping the golden calf. But that is just a concept. The idea is essentially to not worship anything within creation. So it could be money, it could be followers, it could be literally anything, even friends and family. It goes even so far to ultimately remind yourself of that reference point that you are. And ultimately, everything else can become an idol. But then, when people find religion, they make that religion their idol. Because instead of truly connecting to their God, they are hammering home how important that phrase is here, that verse here. He said this, and that teacher, and yada yada yada. It never ends. And this is what builds the ego then again and brings you totally away from God.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, this is why I've always had a feeling that religion kind of works against itself, like its own purpose, a lot of times. For not to everyone, of course, but like we're as humans we're prone to idolizing things that are of material nature and other
Yes.
people, authorities, emotions, addictions, all these things. So yeah. It's tough. Like it's tough to like. I don't think the prophets or the people who are teaching these things. I don't think they expected humanity to understand these things, because it's really difficult because like of our innate flaws and stuff like that. But how much of that is innate, and how much of that is sucked out of us, and how much intuition is sucked out of us because of all the systems that have been in place for thousands of years, I don't know.
Yeah, ultimately, I would say that the prophets came as a guidance, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I believe that they knew as well that the majority of people will be simply following blindly, and that will lead to corruption ultimately. I think they had so much foresight because people are just people. And that's what happens
Yeah.
with every type of ideology. Ultimately, then we could ask ourselves which ideology brings the biggest benefit to humans, even if they follow blindly. Because if you look at democracy, for example, or the perceived democracy that we have, and the liberalism and what that led to, especially in the past few years, we see that by blindly following that system, essentially this is the demise of humanity, I would say. Moral values are completely overthrown, etc., etc. Without even talking now about the spiritual depth, but just by blindly following, because we have to have that pre-assumption that 90% will unfortunately simply blindly follow, then I would say that the elites or the leaders would have a responsibility in front of God, so to speak, to give a concept out that at least brings people to a better outcome, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if that's what happened, but
I don't think so. Ultimately, no. But anyways, to cement this spiritual talk, do you believe in God now? Like, do you believe in God, in a creator?
so that always depends on what God, how you define God, right? Like, but I believe in my understanding of God, so which is like creation, or somewhat like something that created this reality. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't say that I'm a monotheist, that I believe in one God, because how can I know there's only one? Maybe there's two. I don't know. But yeah, I believe in God in my own way, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so you would believe in a creating force, essentially.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I
Yeah.
think that would be called a deist, just to give it a label. A
Okay.
deist is somebody that believes in a higher deity, form, shape, could be anything that created.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of labels anymore, but I'll take that.
I understand. Anyways, we had some super chats. Thank you very much again, guys. I appreciate it. Again by František Novotny. Hard name to pronounce. John, don't regret losing those toxic vegans on your social media. I wish you good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. No regrets.
Never. Gung Fu says, John, it is in the struggles and dark times you have had, you have grown a lot as a human being. You are in this for the truth and not to make a lot of money in exploiting people with a fake diet that will put huge risk on their lives and health.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. When I was in it, I thought it was the truth, and I was like, it was like a perfect alignment. But now, looking back, it's like, oh damn, there's a lot of false beliefs out there. It's almost like I thought that I would never have any guilt, but overcoming that guilt was something that I had to work on for sure, because I always I thought about all the kids and children and parents that I maybe encouraged to eat a certain way and have extra faith in the vegan high priests, or whatever you want to call them, the doctors, Dr. Gregor, McDougall, these guys. So yeah, I had to deal with the guilt of that as well, but yeah, different story now, and yeah.
No, that's good. I think it's good to have some healthy guilt and then to overcome it, because otherwise how would you realize that you did a mistake?
Exactly.
You just mentioned Dr. Gregor and Dougal there again. Now, looking back on them, I don't know how it is for you, but it's so blatantly obvious that they're not healthy. I mean, just by using common sense and your eyes. It is so blatantly obvious that Dr. Gregor is most definitely not healthy, and we cannot just blame it on being a science geek or whatnot. He's most definitely not healthful looking. Do you think that under the vegan spell you have a different perspective, different eyes? You see people differently?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, if you are able to be blind to your own children having health issues because of the vegan diet, or potentially because of the vegan diet, yeah, you're definitely gonna overlook all kinds of stuff, for sure. It's and you always have a reason. You always have a. It's one of these things, like, when you have an ideology, you can debunk anything. You can debunk anyone. You always have the answer. And I can still argue for veganism, forever if I want to. You can debunk anything you want if you try to. It doesn't. There is no way to reach objective truth, I think, when you're so blindsided by so much emotional attachments to a belief. So yeah, definitely have a different perspective when you're vegan.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance to reach objective truth if you are emotional, because truth is not an emotion at all. It is what it is. And people will hate the truth, they will shout at the truth, other people will ridicule the truth, but the truth just is. There is absolutely no emotion attached to it whatsoever. And when you are an emotional mess of a human being, then you have no chance of seeing the truth, even if it stares you right in the face. No chance.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of vegans don't believe in like an objective, like it's a subjective world and all these things, and so many are even within veganism, there are different sects, like antinatalists, a lot of them, which I never understood, but so many, nihilists, yeah, there's a lot of different kind of sects within veganism that makes objective truth even harder to find. So yeah.
Isn't that amazing, honestly, to see that those people will claim, and it's not only some vegans, I think that most vegans are moral subjectivists, so they will claim there is no absolute truth, but then will go right ahead and make a truth claim, and will tell you that eating animals is bad, but there is no objective right and wrong, there is no objective truth at all, whatsoever. Then they're going to say, yeah, but well, if you read in your Bible... We're not even talking about religion now. We're simply talking about an objective, right and wrong. They're going to get triggered all over the place because they simply feel, of course, that there has to be a truth within their statements. Otherwise, the whole discussion doesn't make sense. A vegan can preach for 1 hour, and at the end I can say, yeah, well, but there is no objective truth, and therefore everything that you said has zero value. Zero value. Everything that you said was just a subjective blob. And even your brain chemistry is just relative So who tells us that anything congruent, rational can come out of you? It's all just, that's it. So who cares? Then they will get triggered again. No, moral agency. Where does moral agency exist? Is that a real thing? Is that true, that we have moral agency? It's so self-defeating, but they don't see it. They will laugh it off again.
Yeah. That's I've noticed that a lot, especially when you try to do debates with, it was one of the best things, when you became ex-vegan and Tristan had always, done some, debates or online conversations with vegans, but that's when you would see it, the contradictions and the hypocrisy and reasoning in these things. And yeah, again, if you have emotional attachments to an ideology, like, there is no way of avoiding hypocrisy and contradicting yourself constantly. So, like, it's just part of it, and nobody wants to admit it to themselves.
No chance. And this is why I believe that debates and discussions, even though sometimes entertaining, but the real hardcore versus debates will lead to exactly nothing. Because I think we are almost in a post-debate time where people really get into that just for the sake of debating and not finding truth at all.
Yeah.
So the vegan goes into the debate already set in stone that veganism is the truth, nothing will shake that, and everybody has their fanboys on their side, and then they throw stuff at each other, and at the end everybody leaves and nobody learned anything, and they just wasted 2 hours of their life.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. People are really not even interested in broadening their horizon a bit.
No.
No.
And you'll see that in the comment section, because one person will see a completely different thing and a completely different outcome than another person. Like, oh, he absolutely smashed him. He sent him home, and the other guys will be like, wow, the other guy had nothing to say. And it's like, you're just confirming your own bias no matter what. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe it helps for someone who's maybe a little bit more neutral, not too attached to different things. Maybe they're able to see these debates as more helpful, but yeah, most people they're already set in stone with their beliefs, and a debate is not going to change their opinions.
No, not at all. We have one more super chat by Sherry. Sorry you guys went through all that with hate. Kindness matters. Everyone has their own journey. Thank you very much, Sherry. It's fine. We're all grown-ups here. We can deal with it, I think. It's all good. It's just online hate. That's how I see it nowadays, because back in the day we had the TV, and I would see my dad, I will never forget that, we would watch Mike Tyson fight, and he would say, "Oh, idiot, punch back." I'm like, dude, you step into that ring, man. What are you saying? But part of the story is, back then there were no comments, and nowadays everybody can comment anything. You have your email address out there, your social media, they can DM you, and this is why you get all that unfiltered hate of those people. Back in the day, they would just think it to themselves. That's why you're confronted with it. Nevertheless, doesn't make it real.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, as long as they're not, showing up in person and trying to kill you, like, it's fine.
Yeah, up until now, I've been on this ex-vegan trip here for, I believe it's over 3 years now. And plenty of death threats, and nothing happened till now. I've been recognized on the street as well, but it was always positive. So nobody ever did something to me in person. I think we're going to be fine, John.
Richard is not coming.
It's strange. Very strange. So I'm still waiting. He doesn't come. He sends me DM after DM, but he somehow doesn't show up. It's very strange. Anyways, bro. Hey, we've been at it for over 2 hours, man.
Oh, wow.
I will have to cut it off. I think we could have talked even further, but I will have to cut it off. Unfortunately, my family is waiting for me. It was a fantastic talk. At the end of this, if you want, what is your message for vegans watching this? Because I'm sure we have vegans watching this. What is your message personally to them?
Well, I would say to vegans watching that try your best to, if again, it's hard, but try your best to question your things, especially if you're a family person, you have kids and children. That's the main thing for me, is just be open to not having all the answers, be open to not knowing the truth about what you think is true, and try to see things for what they are. If your children are showing any signs of deficiency or any red flags whatsoever, be open to the possibility that it may be that you're doing something that may not be optimal for them, and it's worth a try to change their diet up, to get perspectives from doctors who are not only vegan doctors and other professionals and nutritionists, dietitians. Be open to the fact that we're human and we don't have all the answers, and our children depend on us being we're responsible for them, and we're gonna have to live with the consequences for the rest of our lives. So try to be as neutral and detach yourself to these hardcore beliefs when it comes to your children, because they can't voice their struggles. They can't express their deficiencies or their lack of whatever they need. So it's up to us to do what's best for them. So just be open to not having all the answers, and be proactive in trying to fix and find a solution.
Amen. Thank you very much for that. One last super chat says, thanks a lot for all your messages, dear Bobby. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Arun Guna. John, thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure. I want to say as well that this is the realest I've ever seen you, to be totally honest. I mean, we had our back and forths, we talked about certain topics and egos get involved. I think this time was honestly the first time for me having a genuine extended conversation with you. I think it was absolutely beautiful. I really appreciate it and respect it. And whenever you want to come back on, you're more than welcome.
For sure, man. Yeah, it's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for everyone who's watching as well, for all the kind words and support. I appreciate that. And yeah, again, thanks for having me on. I don't get that many interview invitations from the vegans that I used to talk to before. So
me neither. It's strange. Why? All right, man. All the best, and we're looking forward to see some videos up on your channel soon.
Awesome, man.
All right, bro.
Take care.
All the best, man. See you, bro. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. One more super chat by Gung Fu. I really enjoy these talks. John looks so natural now and in ease, relaxed, not having to defend a wrong logic. I think both of your vegan experiences are very important for others who are going ex-vegan and for others not to go that way in the first place. Thank you very much, Gung Fu. I appreciate it, and I agree as well, as I just said in the end here. He seems very, very genuine and very much himself. It's very nice to see him like that. And as I said, yes, it might be due to him not being in the position where he has to defend an ideology. Because every time you have to defend something, the ego gets triggered and then you're not yourself anymore. So therefore, thank you very much. Valid point, Gung Fu. Alright, guys, but this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I absolutely did. It was a fantastic talk. I'm gonna be back probably in 2 weeks' time. I don't think next Sunday I will have the time to stream. Nevertheless, we have many reaction videos coming up this week, so stay tuned. Like the stream, support this channel. You can donate offline as well. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you so much for that. We have organ meats as well, dissected, raw, freeze-dried, organic, halal. It is all good stuff. Support this channel. Thank you very much. Alright, guys, but this is it for today. Enough. I'm gonna have to go back and be a family man. I appreciate each and one of you. As always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.